Hello, everybody, and welcome on into Sidelines, presented by Visit Potter-Tioga. I'm Drew Patrick. On today's episode, we meet the new strength and conditioning coach here at Mansfield University, as well as talk a lot of track and field. Welcome back to Sidelines. Let's meet a new face here on campus at Mansfield, the new strength and conditioning coach here. Evan Gross, thank you so much for taking the time and stopping by.
Oh, thanks for having me.
So let's jump right into it. Your first couple days were that January. This is really kind of still in that first month. What has been, in the very beginning here, your goal to establish kind of what you want to do in the strength and conditioning room this first month? Really first weeks.
Yeah. These first few days are about just establishing norms, establishing habits, helping athletes understand what I'm looking for, not only just from a terminology standpoint, because that's going to change from what they're used to, but also just my expectations. It was my understanding it's been a little while since somebody has been kind of in that space, and so some people are very new to the idea of someone saying, we need to make sure we are on time or dress this way or things go in these certain spots, and it's different. And so you just kind of you establish those norms, you create that expectation, and you're consistent with it. As long as you're consistent with it, they'll figure it out.
What is the strategy then to establish those norms, to establish like this is kind of the culture of this room, this is kind of the process of this room that may be different than what you're used to? How do you go about establishing what you want in there?
It goes back to my core values, the things that I believe are important, the things that I believe carry over into not only onto the practice field and on the playing field, but also into just everyday life. That kind of lends itself to creating your expectations and your rules and your the boundaries that you set in place for the athletes. That's the thing that really informs it and allows you to understand. And every strength coach is different because we all prioritize different things and believe certain things to help athletes achieve it, and that's why you'll get different things.
So what are those core values, those things that you really like to focus on?
I am a big discipline guy, not necessarily from a you did something wrong and you are going to be disciplined, but doing little things consistently. So that's where a lot of my stuff comes back to. My expectations are, showing up early, understanding the workout and understanding the terminology, making sure all the weight plates go back into their certain places, making sure clips are on the whatever space I designate for them, dumbbells are in order. All of those things where they might seem innocuous to a lot of people, to me, the discipline of saying, okay, I'm going to not only show up every day on time, but I'm going to put things back. I'm going to do everything that's asked of me, carries over into everyday life. I'm going to, I set my alarm for 6 a.m. I'm going to wake up at 6 a.m. I've set this expectation. I'm going to do my homework from this time to this time, so I do those things. I have practice from this time to this time, so I do that. To me, that's the little thing that carries over into those other areas of life.
So with that specifically too, and with setting up the culture you want to set up, what is, I guess, the process in getting the student athlete and the coaches really too to buy into this is the process we're going to go for, put their faith and trust in you with the student athletes and with them. What is that process like for you?
It's a day-to-day building of relationships. To me, coaching in general is a relationship job. It is my job and my opportunity to create a relationship with every athlete and every coach so that they understand that, yes, we are going to go through a process. This is not going to be a thing that takes 5 days, 2 weeks, a month, whatever it is. This is going to take time to create the culture that I am looking for, that you are looking for as the coach, and that we want in order to have our programs succeed. And to do that, I have to take the time every day to create a relationship, have a conversation with an athlete, have a conversation with a coach, to let them know, look, I am your strength coach, and my job is to make you stronger, faster, quicker, less injury prone, hopefully. Those are my job descriptions. But the bigger thing is you will allow me to do those things when you know that I care about you as more than just an athlete. I care about you as a person. I want to see you succeed both on the field, in the classroom, in life, and with a coach too. Letting them know I am here to help further their vision of their program. I am not here to replace them. I am not here to, make an athlete think that the weight room is more important than the soccer field or the football field. My role is to support that. So the weight room supports their vision for their program, and the only way that they can understand that I mean that is by creating that relationship with them on a daily basis.
And that's such an interesting point too, because you talk about the relationships and the collaborative effort it really has to be between you and the coaches. And a lot of times there can be vast personalities throughout the coaches, and trying to blend your style with a lot of different personalities. What is the challenges of that? And then how do you go and approach that?
That is probably the biggest challenge in my not only just here, but in my field, in strength and conditioning. Strength and conditioning coaches tend to come from a certain ilk. We tend to love the weight room. It's the thing, it's why we do this job. And in order to, you have to take the time to help them understand why you are doing certain things. So if a coach is maybe hesitant on, a heavy squat style for whatever it is, to help them understand, I am squatting them heavy for this reason, and this is what I am looking for. And because a lot of times some coaches might think you're trying to turn them into a power lifter or something, and it's not. I'm going to challenge them with a heavy weight for them. I am not looking to hit a specific number or set a record. I'm going to take, student athlete A, and I'm going to, help drive their numbers up a little bit under the context of making them a better athlete, not a better lifter. And I think once you start framing things in, I'm making them stronger to make them a better athlete, I'm making them faster to make them a better athlete, then coaches become more receptive to whatever your style happens to be. And then you can blend as a coach. That gives you more freedom to blend styles amongst a team, or go from team to team and say, okay, I can do this with this team, and maybe this team is in a different space, and I'll do something a little bit different, and this one allows me to do this. And so as long as coaches understand what your process is, that you have the athlete's best interest at heart, and improving them athletically for the field is kind of amongst those things, in my experience, many coaches will allow you to kind of have some freedom in that space.
The other thing that's so important, and continuing on to that collaboration effort, is of course the injury prevention side of things, and I guess then the collaboration between you and the athletic trainers as well right now. And I think that's a thing that maybe not a lot of people really focus on or really kind of pay as much attention to, but how important is that to the injury prevention part of strength and conditioning?
Oh, it's incredibly important. That relationship between strength coaches and athletic training is paramount to making sure that athletes are protected from themselves, really. An athlete is an athlete because they enjoy competing. They love going out and playing their sport. And many times athletes will try to, and they mean the best. They're not trying to harm themselves by any means. But, they'll maybe say something doesn't hurt quite as much. Like if I ask them, they'll come into lift and they don't want to be told they're limited. So they'll tell me, oh no, my ankle's fine. Like, yeah, I was able to do things. But if I've already spoken with the athletic trainers and I know, look, they're going to try to tell you that it's not bothering them. They were severely limited at practice. Like, we need to back off on that. I already know. And I can tell that athlete, look, I appreciate you wanting to push yourself, and your teammates appreciate that, but we need to make sure that you're ready for practice and for a game, so we are going to roll you back a little. We're going to limit you right now. But that communication, again, between athletic training and strength and conditioning is incredibly important. So, going the opposite way too. If something happens in a lift, which hopefully it doesn't, but if something does happen, or an athlete reveals something to me that they haven't said to a trainer, I can turn to them and say, hey, they told me their shoulder's really starting to bother them. That way they're just aware of it, so then they can keep an eye on it too. If they are at practice or something, they can see that. That communication going both ways allows, and then we can communicate that with coaches as well to limit reps or limit volume or whatever needs to be done at practice, and to allow them to hopefully play in a game as much as possible.
I think we've seen and we've discussed that really communication is the key to making all of this go as successful as possible. You've talked about how to open up that dialogue for open communication with everyone, and how important that is. So one last button, I guess, on that, just truthfully, how important, how crucial is communication to really being able to make everything work like a smooth machine?
It's the ultimate piece, and it really comes down to not having an ego in the fight or in the endeavor. It doesn't matter if they get limited in my area for some reason, or the athletic training staff says, we need to limit them in lift right now because of XYZ. I need to trust their expertise in the area and say, okay, you know what, you're right. Let's find a way to work around this. And I can't allow that to hurt my ego or anything, because again, the athletes are not here to be weightlifters or anything. And as long as I keep that in mind, I can adjust things and understand that the long game is keeping them healthy, so that they can play their sport, and so that they can, once they graduate, they can function in life normally and not go around. I think we meet a lot of people in our day-to-day lives who have been athletes, and they're like, oh, my knees are messed up, I have such bad shoulders from when I was an athlete. And I've always endeavored to have athletes that don't have those stories. They go through and they're like, yeah, things were rough, but I'm in pretty good shape right now. It's been 10 years since I competed, and I'm still functioning pretty well. That's one of my endeavors as I go forward, is to have more and more athletes that say, I'm in pretty good shape, even though I'm no longer competing.
Mansfield is unique with one sport in specific, with sprint football, and the fact that you can't really put on weight there. However, you actually come from a sprint football background, which we normally don't see. So explain about your experiences in sprint football and how that you feel that's going to lead to the success of a sport that sometimes can be challenging for a strength and conditioning coach. Oh,
yeah. So I was the running backs coach at the United States Military Academy at West Point for 2 years in 2014 and 2015. And that allowed me firsthand experience in seeing athletes who, needed to make weight but still perform at, normal football playing endeavors as we would see on Saturday or Sunday. And so I think seeing that for 2 years and seeing what these athletes go through, especially in season, as they are trying to maintain their weight and trying to practice and do everything else that they need to do, seeing that allows me to understand them on a consistent basis and understand, okay, like right now, for example, we are in our off season. If this was traditional football, non-sprint football, this would be, let's get guys as big and as strong as possible. Let's just throw volume on them. Let's make them big. And I have to understand that although we can do some of those things, I have to dampen it. I have to understand that we can't get as big as possible because we have a weight limit to reach. And as long as I keep that in mind in everything that I do and everything that I write, because I have that background, it allows me to keep that focus on my programming to help them get stronger at their body weights rather than using weight to leverage strength, which we sometimes see with football players.
So, I mean, it's nice, and I'm sure the coaches, I'm sure the players appreciate that too, that you have that experience. The one thing that you mentioned that's very interesting and a very different thing is, balancing the off season and the in season athletes, and how important, or really how, I don't want to say difficult because I don't think that's the right word for it, but the differences that you have to make and you have to stress to a student athlete who is in an off-season period and an on-season period if they're used to something.
Mm-hmm. You're right. It's not so much difficult as just keeping things in perspective and keeping the larger picture in mind. So I am someone that does not, many times you'll hear coaches talk about in-season and maintenance work and maintaining strength or maintaining conditioning. And I'm one that is a little, I don't quite believe in that. I believe in continuing to put in the effort to make progress. Now, are we going to make the same sort of progress that we would make in the off season? No. And that's up to me to convey that knowledge. As I convey the first part, if I tell a team, look, I don't believe in, we're going to continue to work to get better in the in season. Okay. Now I also have to balance that with them with understanding we have a lot more demands on our plate. The progress we make is not going to be the same as when we could focus more on lifting, where you might have been able to increase a number by 20 or 25 pounds, say in the off season. You might only see a 5-pound increase in season, but we're going to put in that work to increase that by 5 pounds. I think that is important to understand, and we're going to continue to work to improve your conditioning and your speed and your explosiveness. We're going to always can put in the effort to get better, while understanding, again, that the level of progress will be much slower than it would be in an off season. And then vice versa, when we get to the off season, it's like, okay, now we're going to really put in some work. You're going to see volumes and intensities increase, and it's going to be much more work than what we just came out of our in-season work, where lifts might take 20 or 30 minutes. Now that number is going to go up. We're going to be in here 45, 50 minutes, and there's going to be much more expected of you. There's going to be much more work to be done. And again, back to the communication point. As long as I am communicating that to the athletes and they understand those specifics, and we keep those communication lines open, that's how I tend to balance my in-season and my out-of-season athletes, and just helping them understand that point.
So we've kind of circled around and discussed a bit about kind of what is your overall goal for this program here, the strength and conditioning program at Mansfield. What is your goal, and what do you see for the future of the program?
My goal is to establish Mansfield as a top-tier athletic program in the PSAC, and help all programs work towards conference championships, playoff appearances, and continue to build the athletic program across all sports. I believe that's my purpose, to help further all of our sports to be able to compete and achieve at those type of levels.
Well, Evan, once again, welcome aboard, and thank you so much for taking the time and stopping by.
Again, I'm happy to be here. Thank you for having me, and go Mounties.
And Sidelines continues after this. Do not go.
It's all part of Mother Nature's perfect blend, the keystone of the Keystone State. Visit Potter-Tioga, a 2-county scenic outdoor haven conveniently located, yet worlds apart. A place where you can kick back, unwind, and forget about the pressures of life. Disconnect and reconnect with your friends, family, or even yourself while surrounded by nature's beauty. So start planning your adventures today at visitpottertioga.com.
welcome back into Sidelines. Let's talk track and field. As joining me here at the desk are a pair of record breakers on the track and field team, Skylar Brown and Sean Ringgold. Thank you so much for stopping by.
Thanks for having us.
So, let's jump right into it. Of course, you start out this year with a big exclamation point, so to speak, those two 60-dash records. Walk me through those. What did you see in that race? How did it feel to get the record, that kind of thing?
Honestly, we had a lot of preparation time for the preseason and making it all the way to the meet. It was a lot of up and downs and uncertainties, but we just stayed dedicated, honestly, and we just had something to prove that no matter what it is that we're going against, we're still here to compete no matter what. And that's what happened when we came home with the records, you know?
Yeah, I would agree. I had no idea what I was gonna go out there and run. I didn't know what the record was. So, I just went out there and did my best to execute. So it was a surprise, a pleasant one, but.
So too, I think specifically seeing, Skylar, your development through your years here has just been, from my point of view, incredible.
Thank you.
And so obviously last year indoor, you had said that, look, I want to run track, I want to try to do this, went in, really developed through that, but didn't qualify that first year. And now to see where you were at the very start to your first race this year, breaking that record, what has that journey really been like for you?
I always knew it was going to be a journey. I think that I knew that more than anyone else probably did, except for Coach Johnson. I took 2 years off. I didn't run, my first year of college and then, the pandemic. So I knew that it was going to take time. And I'm just grateful to see my work paying off. It took a while, but I knew it, so.
And then, Sean, when you see one of your teammates go through that journey and knowing the one that you also had to go through and battling injuries through your career and the last couple of years really finding that groove, what can you take away or what have you taken away from seeing her journey and relating it to your own?
It's honestly, you just gotta stay dedicated. You gotta stay with the work. If you're not putting in the work, it's gonna show 100% of the time. But if you're staying there, staying to the target times, putting your best foot forward and giving 100% of your effort every time, the times will reflect that. And that's what happened between her. That's what happened between me. When people are working hard. When they're putting their best foot forward at practice, at every day when we have to show up. Shows when it goes out.
Oh, absolutely. And this year was kind of unique. Obviously, Coach Johnson moves on. So that fall semester, what was it like really where you guys, there's a large group of freshmen where you kind of also had to be player leaders and player coaches there for the start of that?
I would give them a lot of credit. Without them, it wouldn't have been possible. They bought in. I think every single one of them did their best to just buy in and trust us because they didn't have anyone else besides us in the beginning. And it just worked. Sean was the leader. He would lead practice. He was our coach for the first, 2 months or whatever it was. But I think everybody just bought in and showed up and went to work even when, we didn't know what was going on next. So I really give them credit for that because they did a really great job of just trusting us.
Yeah, definitely. They didn't have to buy in, but they did, and they still came in. They asked me whatever question they had to do, whether they didn't understand something, I explained it to them, and we just kept going. It was just us there. So we got to make do because you don't get that time back.
What was the challenge though for you? That obviously you're a student, you're going through classes, you're dealing with your day to day, and you also, first of all, you're an RA, you work for sports, you have a lot of hats on. What was that like? What was it like also understanding how much you care about the program and that group to really be their coach for that first 2 months?
Honestly, it was definitely very stressful considering that was the beginning of the semester, classes are starting, the RA role was still just getting settled down with our new staff as well. A whole bunch of incoming freshmen and transfer students, a lot of them that I talked to over the summer and seen them on their recruitment visits, so they all were fairly familiar with me for that limited time that we have, so they just trusted me. That's the only thing that I can really say about it. They just trusted me not to lead them astray.
So then Don Cook gets brought in as the assistant, really the coach who's going to focus on yours. obviously the elephant in the room being he was a teammate last year, and not only just a teammate, but a friend going back a long time with you, Sean. So what is that transition like to have a person who is a friend, a teammate, then move into that coach's role? What was that transition like, or what kind of changed or had to alter?
For us, it wasn't that difficult because I said, we had conversations about it before leading up to it. And I said, like, our relationship won't change. But when we're on the track, you are my coach. So I will give you the respect that you earned because you earned the title. I'll call you coach out there, but when we're outside of practice, ultimately, we're still friends. That's my best friend. So we're not changing anything. But for other people, it might be a little bit different.
Don was my captain last year, so it wasn't a huge adjustment. I think that, again, he's done a really good job of just like creating those boundaries, and I think we've all been pretty respectful of them. So I think that was like the main thing, you know, like he said, like when we're on the track, he is coach, and I think just that was symbolic of his new role. Like he just made that very clear, like address me as coach, you know, I'm not doing things I did last year with you guys because I can't. And I think just like he was really responsible with how he had to like come in and change his role. So I would give him credit for that transition.
What have been some of the things that you've taken from Coach Cook here looking forward that really that has helped this year in training when he's come in, and really that you've seen kind of subtle nuances you've picked up from him that you think have led to success thus far this year?
Yeah, sure. He's very calm. I'm an emotional person. When I don't do what I want to do, you know, I get super emotional. I can get in my head, and he's always just like even kill. He's always the same, and I think that that's really helped me. He's always just like trust me and trust the process, and I really do. And I think that just having like a calm, reassuring figure, just to let you know that you are where you're supposed to be, has been really helpful. So.
He always had that I want to win attitude. So even with him taking the coach's role, he still puts that on us that I want to be competitive no matter where we are, no matter what the competition is. We're running against ourselves and the clock. If you want to be at the top of the PSAC, you got to run against that clock. You want to be in national qualifying times, you got to run against the clock. So that's something that he puts onto us as well, along with tweaking small, subtle things. But every small change adds up to a big difference.
So this past week, you guys had the chance to run at Bucknell, which also happens to be the host location for the conference championship. So what is there a little extra focus on that meet when you're at this facility that is new, but also knowing you're going to see it again? Is there any sort of mental adjustment you make for that?
It's just good to know how the track feels. So I just was paying attention, how to run the turns. Really, that was pretty much it for me. I think you have to perform wherever you are, but just knowing how the track feels is important.
Yeah, I think this was the first time that we've really seen a lot of PSAC schools since indoor started. So you can think of it as a little preview of like some of the competition that you will see there. But ultimately, you just go out there and perform. Of course, you need to be familiar with the track because Bucknell's track is unlike any other track that we've been at so far. So those turns will blindside you if you're not prepared with them, along with the long straightaway.
I was going to say specifically the 200 though. There you not only have those turns, but an extra maybe 30 meters that seems to be on that straightaway. So yeah, that adjustment to those. So let's look at this season and going forward. What kind of are the goals in your mind and the expectations the rest of the way?
Nationals. That's definitely the end goal that we want to go to. It's okay to say that we want to qualify for PSACs and we want to be at the top of the PSAC, but ultimately the goal is qualify for nationals. Nothing short of that.
Same thing?
Yes, I would agree.
Hey, that should be a fun race to get there, the training. Obviously, right now, kind of in the middle of the season, sometimes you can deal with like tweaks and injuries and sometimes that. So the underrated aspect of chasing that goal is maintaining healthiness and maintaining that program. What do you guys have to do in that case when you start to maybe feel sore one day, or something doesn't feel right one day, what are kind of the things, either your strategies or the things you've done whenever you notice a tweak, or whenever you notice like, all right, something might be a little off today?
I've been pretty good up to this point. I've actually started to feel those tweaks like as of last week, so I'm still trying to figure that out. But I think just really paying attention and taking care of your body, getting rest, going to the trainer. He always says that. He's always like, go to the trainer. And I think that's really important because we are doing a lot of work. It's a lot of volume, so your body will start to wear down if you don't pay attention and take care of it. So.
Yes, I've been on a very strict schedule of going up to the trainers at least 30 minutes before practice every day, stretching, heat, or ice, or whatever the case may be for whatever I'm feeling. So that's been helping me out, and I'm just continuing that throughout the season.
Go to the trainer is always great advice. Absolutely. Well, thank you both so very much for stopping by here today.
Thanks,
for having
Drew.
us.
And Sidelines will continue after this. Do not go.
Pride and passion drives the Pennsylvania State Athletic Conference. From 55 NCAA championship teams, 294 individual national champs, and counting. Who's next? Make the PSAC yours. PSAC Proud is winning in athletics and in the classroom. Over 3,100 PSAC student athletes are honored as scholar athletes. It's a perfect mix of athletics and academics. It's time to make the PSAC yours.
Welcome back to Sidelines. Let's talk track and field, or continue to talk track and field here. As now joining me here at the desk is freshman Madison Ziska. Thank you for stopping by.
Of course.
So let's talk about this season, your first season, indoor track and field. Obviously, the challenges of specifically the long jump indoor track and field when we don't have an indoor track and field facility here. What has that transition been like for you? What is that first couple of training sessions have been like for you?
So it is very frustrating because we'll go to meets and then obviously they have indoor facilities that they're able to use and that are available to them. But for training wise with that, because we don't, as a substitute, Coach John will have us do a lot of bounding exercises and plyo work to be able to make up for not having a track. We'll put together a rolling out mat in KFC and a mat at the end that we can jump onto so we don't run into a wall. So it all works out.
So what has been the start of your career here in college? What has been some of the things that have stood out to you that you really weren't expecting or excite you about the first couple of meets of the year?
Well, my first jump of indoor season, I got the school record, which I actually wasn't too happy about because it wasn't my personal best or anything like really close to it. So I'm excited though that I got that. It gives me hope, and knowing that for my first jump I got that. So I have plenty more meets to go that I can break that.
So yeah, that first jump, tie the record. The next one, you beat that record. So there was improvement there. But getting that first step out of the way, kind of thing. You have the record, so now you don't really have that to worry about going forward. How will that help kind of your training or your focus going forward?
It's definitely going to push me a lot more. It definitely gives me a lot more courage, and it keeps telling me that like I'm able to do it. I just have to put in the work to do it.
So let's talk about kind of some of these first meets. That first one where you do break the record, that was back last year, so to speak. And then you have a couple here where, what are the key things you are working on? What are the key things that you are are looking at to either try to improve on, or the things that you're trying to fix here as we get closer to the middle of the season?
So the last meet that we just had this past weekend, it was all mental. So mentally, I need to work on just believing myself, and because I've been like very sore lately and everything. So this last meet, I was scared to jump actually a little bit because I was scared I was going to hurt myself, but it was all in my head, so I need to get out of that.
Kind of double duty too at this last meet, as you're not just strictly in the jumps, but running the 200 as well in this meet. What were some of the things, what can you take knowing that you're going to do double duty, or what are the things that you want to focus on specifically in those sprint events that could either lead to better jumps, or you can just excel too at the sprints?
Yeah, so all throughout high school, I was always put in all 4 events. I was always like ran to the ground and everything. So I'm used to that like constant like running around event to event. The one year at States, they asked me over the intercom to be at the 400 start and long jump like at the same time.
Oh, no.
So definitely each event I do helps push for like each other. Sprints helps with the long jump runway. So it all comes together to help out.
So looking at this year, your first year here, what has it been like to work with Coach Cook, who was an athlete here, did the long jump, so did the thing you're doing, went to the conference championship for that event. What has it been like to take things from him?
So almost exactly a year ago at the Bucknell opener last year, I actually went to watch Mansfield before I came here, and I got to watch Don jump, Coach Don, and being able to work with him is really cool because not only is he like our coach, but because he was just a teammate, like everyone's so close. So like the atmosphere is always very good and it's very fun because everyone already knows each other. And because of that, being able to practice with them makes it a lot more comfortable for you to participate.
That's such a kind of unique thing too with track, because sometimes people look at it and go, well, there's a lot of individual events, there's a lot of individuality throughout, but especially that group is so close-knit. How much does that help? How much of a factor is that people don't really realize?
It helps a lot because some days you don't want to go to practice or you're tired, and then you think about like who's going to be there and stuff, and you know it's going to be fun and you're going to have a good time.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's take a look at your goals for either the rest of this indoor season. Don't want to look too far ahead, but we can peek at the outdoor season. But coming in your first year here, what are the goals in mind?
My goals are definitely to make it to the PSACs, try to get I actually don't know what the qualifying for jumping is yet. I need to look that up, but definitely for my events, I want to be able to compete in the championships for indoor.
Hey, should be an exciting rest of the way. Best of luck the rest of the way.
Thank you so much.
And thank you so much for stopping by.
Of course.
And Sidelines continues after this. Do not go anywhere. And that's going to do it for this show, folks. To stay up to date on all things Mansfield Athletics, head over to GoMounties.com. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you next time.